Good morning, everybody. Oh, I see we have quite a good crowd going today. And then I can't, once I get started, I can't really see you guys as much. So,
good.
But I know you're there. All right.
So Linda, you should make your announcement.
So, I just leave this in here so that you have that later on if you're looking for that materials on the slides and you need my contact information. So
Right
that's
here,
all
right?
there. And remember that, we have the workbook that does have more information in it. Looks like this. And it, it gives you a little bit more sort of discussion about the various tools and how we're using them. It can be a little daunting when we're doing this section because we've got like all these tools and they seem sort of similar and didn't we already do this before? But we're doing some slightly different things. So for example, last week we focused on comparing our competitors to each other. Today we're going to be comparing our customers to each other. We're also going to use another tool that's not in that book that's called the Business Model Canvas, which is another version of a planning tool. It's really good if you are not looking to go and get financing where you need this really formal business plan that you have to be able to present to an investor or a banker or a business partner. But you still need the discipline to identify, what your process is. And you may still want to do both. The Business Model Canvas is a little bit more map oriented instead of narrative oriented. So, if you kind of differentiate left brain thinking from right brain thinking, this one's going to be more right brain thinking, where the narrative version is going to be more of that, what we would typically call left brain thinking. Okay, so those are the things we're going to focus on today. And so before we get started with this, does anybody have any questions or comments or any, issues that you might have had with homework or things that you've learned since we met the last time? Did anybody actually work on some marketing ideas or some elements of your marketing plan between the last class and this one?
Kathleen, this is Sonetta. I actually met my mentor this week, and her name is Fatima Fisher.
Okay.
And so we discussed a lot of things that you did go over, and I'm really enjoying the one-on-one. I think now I'm going to be able to bridge and sync everything through the mentorship part of the program. The Canvas is wonderful today.
That is awesome. Yeah, so that's great. And anybody else get a mentor? If you did get a mentor, you can use the raise your hand button or, speak up. Well, anybody else? Oh, Christine.
Yes. Oh, hi, Kathleen. Hi, everybody. Yes, I did get a mentor. We had a quick 15-minute call and we're scheduled to talk next week.
Don't start me. I'm on this thing.
Great. Well, what's great about that is that, I have to speak in really generic terms because we have such a wide variety of different kinds of businesses, even in this class. And so there's a lot of differentiation that, you can get very specific with your mentor and figure out how to tailor all of this material to your particular business. And so I really do encourage you to take advantage of it. I'm not getting a commission for selling the mentors or anything.
Hey, reach it at the top.
I'm sorry, somebody has a mic open? Somebody talking to me, or are you just? Okay. So anyway, so yeah, so if you can do that, then you're going to figure out how can I really dig in and apply this material to my specific business, and hopefully that's really going to get you a really good jump start. And I've seen this happen even in the less than a year that I'm working with SCORE, where people have gone from a concept to making money, so that's a beautiful thing. Okay. So this is the new tool, the one that's not in the original material. It's called the Business Model Canvas. Has anybody ever seen this before? Anybody familiar with this idea? I gave a little mention of it last week. or less.
Yeah, this is similar to what's also known as the lean canvas.
It is. And so this is, this is actually a different version of something called a SIPOC, SIPOC, which is a process tool. And it's an acronym, obviously, otherwise why would somebody invent such a silly word? So the S stands for supplier. In this case, we're thinking of suppliers as our partners or vendors, or depending on the nature of your work. So we've got suppliers, inputs, then the middle is the process itself, then the outputs, and then the customers. So SIPOC, and then this one's a little further divided it, right? So the inputs and outputs have been subdivided into some specific activities and information about our businesses. Plus, we've got some additional financial information on the bottom. So what you need to know about this tool is that you do not start at the left, right? So our natural, Western style thinking and reading, we start at the top left and we work our way over. In this tool, you actually start right smack in the middle. And if you've ever used like a network diagram or a mind map, which is a tree diagram for people who don't like, to be bounded by structure. You actually start in the middle and then you draw branches in different directions. Well, in this case, we're going to start in the middle, which is to say, what is it that we're offering with our business? And then we can move over to the right and talk about to whom are we offering it and how, and then we can move to the left and say, well, what do I need in order to do that? And then on the bottom, we're also going to talk about what we intend to earn and what we need to financially support the business. Any questions? So here's another view of it. I borrowed this from a colleague who used this in a talk a couple of weeks ago and who borrowed it from some other publicware, and I can give you the source if you're interested in that. I'm a big believer in attribution. Comes from my college teaching part of my life, right? So notice in the middle where it says start here, it says, what do you do, right? So what is it that I'm proposing to offer to people? What is the solution to people's problems? So we need to understand what problem are we solving and what is our solution that we're offering. And then we talk about, you can look at who do we help first if that is useful to you. And then the in-between piece is how do we interact with these people and how do we reach them? Okay, so which will be our relationships, how do we we relate to these customers, and our distribution channels. On the left-hand side, what kind of help do I need in order to do this, right? So if I'm selling paint supplies, then I need to have suppliers that I can buy my materials from. Even if I'm producing something myself, I still need to have those suppliers. And it may be that I need other kinds of support. If you're in a service business, then you may need to have, people to help you keep your computer running so that you can offer your online services. Any of those kinds of folks. So who will help me? And then how will I interact with those people? So how will I develop my product, service, stuff? What are my active action states? And then also what are the actual things that I need to do that? And then you can see down at the bottom, again, we'll talk about how much money will you make? You have to make money if you're going to be in business. This is, unless you're working on a nonprofit, and even a nonprofit has to have a value that it's producing so that we can continue to perpetuate itself. And then how much will it cost? What kind of money do I need to meet my expenses? Here's another view of it, but with a little bit more detail. And these are some questions that can be useful to you to sort of ask yourself, so what value am I delivering to the customer? Which of my customers' problems am I solving, and what bundle? So we'll go through these one at a time and take a look at sort of what we're hoping to accomplish with our business canvas, right? And what you're going to do as you're doing this is, it's as you're answering these questions, it may raise more questions for you, and that's a good thing, right? Sometimes the answer is the booby prize, because the answers, once we get an answer to something, we stop thinking about it. But a good question creates more thinking, which is how we do creativity, how we involve ourselves in something, and it's where that thought process comes from. Okay, so what is the value that we are going to deliver? And this is going to also be really important when we go and do our marketing information, because it's going to help us set up the message that we're going to work on later on today, to tell my clients, hey, you want to do business with me because I'm going to be able to do this for you. What problem do you solve? Anybody get uncomfortable when I use the word problem?
No, I actually like the word. It helps me figure out my why.
Excellent. That's you. If we were in person, you would get a prize for that. Right? So while the American culture really hates the word problem, Americans are like, oh, you're not, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, and problems are bad, and blah blah blah. But when we strip that emotionality out of it, what we're left with is a puzzle, right? That is something that we can work on, right? And so you can't solve a problem that you can't identify. And so this can be really important, especially if you're in a service business, to say, what is my customer's problem? Do I understand where their pain is and how I'm going to be able to satisfy that? So I encourage you to spend time wrestling with your problem statements. When I taught project management, I used to tell people, the purpose of a project is to solve a problem. And if you don't know what problem you're trying to solve, all your stakeholders are going to try and put their problem into your solution, and nobody's going to end up happy. And so you need to know that too, because that way, when you're serving your customers, you can be sure that you're aligned and you're working on that same problem. Okay. Now you can think about it in terms of what needs are we satisfying, or I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just got it.
Okay, I think that must be somebody else on open mic. I thought somebody was asking me a question. Okay. And
I have a
then
question for you. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I got it, Jessica. So what you want me to
you,
confirm or reply?
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that you do.
Yep. Is somebody on a phone call?
Yes. No, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I wanted to know.
I have one another thing.
I don't know. It's two people
How
talking
much
at
do
the
you
same
charge
time.
me for the
Better get
Clover?
Charlie, can you see if you can? Who was it who has the question?
Yes, I have a question.
What's your name?
T. Rudolph. Miss Rudolph.
Okay.
I wanted to know, what if you're a business, and you can solve more than one problem? Like your business, you said your business, the problem you solve. So
Right.
if you have a business, you can solve more than one problem. So would I use these questions for each problem I'm solving as a business, or does it have to be one problem that you have to decide for the business?
No. You can definitely be solving more than one problem. And in fact, when we look later, we're going to talk about channels, right? And so channels are who are these different groups of clients? And each client may be, each group of clients may have a different set of problems. And so you may have more than one offering in your business, right? So for instance, my business, I had training, and I had different kinds of training that I offered. I had consulting, which was different. I mean, there was a relationship, but it was different. I also did coaching. So I had different channels, but I also had different kinds of clients. Like I had different kinds of training clients. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So it's perfectly okay to do that. There may be some common thread, right? And you do want to have some understanding of what that is. If your business is, dog walking and baking chocolate chip cookies, those are maybe two great business ideas, but I'm not sure that they're going to, work well together unless you have something that unites them, in which case,
But can you have more than one business then? Because I do.
but I would
I
make
kinda
two
have
separate
more than one
plans if I had two
business.
different businesses.
Yes. Okay. So each one will have their own
If you have
plan.
very different businesses, right? Yeah.
Okay.
And be careful
Okay.
trying to do too many things at one time.
Yeah, I tried to concentrate on one at a time.
Sometimes you
Like
want to
I
start
have
with
a
one, get
schedule
it
when I do
going,
one.
and then add on, because otherwise
Yes.
everything becomes a distraction.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. That's a great question. Thank you for the question. Anybody else? All right. So the next piece is the customer segments, right? So who are these different people, right? So for example, if I had my training business, I might have had, different kinds of training needs, people who had different kinds of training needs, or they were in different kinds of industries. And so I was offering them differently. I did in-person training, I did online training, I did different kinds of things. So each of these segments, whatever makes sense for you, how do I want to identify these commonalities in their group? Right. So how do we, and again, I'm going to refer back to my business concept. I'm referring back to those original ideas. But now I really should have changed these questions to say not what, but to whom do I deliver these values? Whose problems are these that we're trying to solve? I apologize. That was a cut and paste error. Now, in between these, we start thinking about how am I relating to these different customers? So for example, is this an in-person service like a retail business where people come in and you transact with them and you give them the product and they give you the money? Or is this something where people can sort of, have some sort of automated or self-service thing, right? Maybe if you have a web-based business. Or is this something that has to be done in a certain kind of situation? Okay. So we're thinking about, how do I interact with these different folks? And you may have more than one group. We'll see in Anne's nursery example that she has a few different market segments. She's thinking about, doing direct retail versus wholesale distribution of plants that she's raising, to other retail sellers, to internet, sales. And so she's exploring which ones of these are the things that she thinks are her, her strength areas where she can be the most effective in her business. Okay. So this continues on here into the channels, right? So, I got a little bit ahead of myself while I was talking about that. Is it direct sales? Is it indirect sales? Am I in a wholesale business or a retail business? As I was talking about with the Anne's business. And then importantly, we have to understand, how is this going to make money? And sometimes we think we have a really good business idea, but we're not quite sure how we're going to monetize it. Other times the method for how we're going to monetize is pretty obvious. But write it down. You may find that you don't know as much as you think you do until you start writing. Okay, because the idea may seem much more concrete in your head, but as you try to describe it on paper or to another person, you realize, now that I'm thinking about this, I have, there's this gap and I don't really know how I'm going to do this part. And so this is really important. Remember, your prefrontal cortex can only hold so many ideas at a time, but paper can hold an unlimited number of ideas. You can always get more paper or digits on your computer if that's what you need. Okay, so now going over to the left-hand side of the form, we're going to talk about, so what do I actually have to do in order to produce my business, right? So, I could say, well, I'm in the training business, so I have to stand up and train. But there's a lot of other things that go on before I can actually, stand up on the platform and offer my class. I have to develop materials and do all of that kind of thing. I have to really understand what my customer's problem is. I have to figure out, what do I need to have in my classroom in order for my training to be effective. Right. So these are just, a few examples, and that doesn't even get into all of the stuff about how am I going to market my business and how am I going to, arrange my calendar and do all of the administrative parts of my work or the follow-up parts of my work. So what are all of those activities? But all of those activities are necessary for you to be successful. And so
Right.
we want to be aware of them. So, question?
Well, I wanted to add too, writing it down also makes you realize and sets the tone on what you want to start charging, because a lot of times I found out once I got a spreadsheet and I was writing it down and I broke everything down with production and the product, I wasn't charging enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Especially with pricing.
pricing. Mhm.
Definitely want to have all of this stuff written down, and really think about what are all of your other overhead costs, because they will keep sneaking in on you.
Right.
And
right.
your vendors are going to need to be paid, right?
Right.
So, you have to have that funds to collect it. And this is one of those areas that really can sink a business
Yeah,
if you're not real careful.
that's true.
And that's why, we're going to spend all of our next class working in numbers.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So we're going to do the financial piece, next time. And we'll walk through all of the various elements of developing the financial end of the plan. So if you look at a business plan, there's actually two parts. There's kind of the part you develop in your word processor that's got all the narrative descriptions, and you can have a couple of tables and things like that. And then you've got the part that you have to develop in your spreadsheets,
Mm-hmm.
right, where you're going to put all of your numbers.
Right.
But both of those together make a plan. They're only one side is necessary but not sufficient. You need to have both sides. Okay. I see you cringing, Ed. I know I said the word spreadsheet. All right. So then what we're also going to be thinking about is, well, what are these key resources that I need, right? So you might need raw materials of some sort. You might need some sort of equipment. You might need different types of skills from other people or even yourself, right? So there may be, I really need to learn how to do this particular kind of activity better. I have to find a new way of doing this, and so on. So what are all of those other types of resources, and where am I going to get them? Okay. And of course, as I'm thinking of those, I'm also going to be thinking about, that bottom box. How much is all this stuff going to cost me? But if you don't have that list, then those costs may not be as obvious. Or you might say, oh, well, I already have some of this stuff, and just assume that you have a lifetime supply of whatever it is. And then you realize I used it all up. I have to replenish it, or this piece of equipment isn't big enough, or whatever, your particular situation demands. And so
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
Is it unrealistic to try to do what you want for your business without cost involved?
I don't understand. What do you mean?
Okay, for example, this is one type of business I have. Like, I'm a notary.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not much cost involved, but there are some costs. Like, when I decided to be a notary, I knew I had like when you have limited income, I try to develop my business based on limited income. Like my books, I'm an author, so I self-publish my books.
Okay.
So I try to do things that doesn't require a lot of cost. Is that unrealistic to start off like that, and then as the money come in, I can start working on those costs?
Well, I would probably try to start quantifying them as much as you can anyway, to figure out what is that, what's involved. Part of your costs may also be your time. So you need to
Oh, so that's
think
considered
about-
cost your time?
well, in your case, yeah, because that's your limiting resource.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to do writing, for example.
Yeah.
So that's, how much can you realistically do, in a certain period of time? Making a
Well,
living in notary is hard
when I
because
did-
there's a limit on how much you can charge for that.
Mhm. So when I did my, as far as my books, when I did that, the cost I did for that was, I limit myself to like start off like 2 books a year. Because this way I won't put the pressure on me.
Mhm.
So I try to start off like with a small amount where it won't be too much pressure on me.
Okay. Well,
So is that okay, or should I make it more?
I don't know. We'd have to have a much longer conversation to figure
Okay.
out what that is specifically for you. But remember, you're trying to figure out how can I make, a certain amount of income on my business.
Oh, so that's
if
the
you-
initial thing I should be trying to find out how much money I want to make and what's involved to make that money.
Right. In other words, what you're
Okay.
trying to figure out is
'Cause I'm
this
doing the
going to-
opposite way.
am I going to get enough money to make this worth my while? Right. Now,
Okay.
for a lot of people, is this going to be enough money to pay my bills?
Okay.
I still have to buy groceries and, pay my rent or mortgage. But, even if it's not, you could say, well, am I doing this because it's fun, or am I doing this because I want to make money and it's a business? And is this really the best investment of my energies and time? And so that's why it's important to do the cost analysis. If you're going to call it a business, you should do a cost analysis.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. And that doesn't mean that you can't do it if you still love it and you can afford to spend your time on that. That's a wonderful thing.
Okay. All right.
Never want to discourage writing.
Thank you.
Yeah, writing is, just how we leave our thinking, our most valuable assets is, we live in a knowledge world. It's all in our heads but these are unfortunately perishable. Those are not.
Mhm.
Or not as perishable anyway.
That was the reason why I wanted to be an author, because I wanted to leave like a legacy. That's part of a legacy that I'll leave it behind.
Yeah. And so that should be, something that you want to get down on paper. How does that play into your entire proposition? Okay. That's part of your value. Okay. And then we'll, and next week or in 2 weeks, next session, we'll talk more about the, how we label these different kinds of costs. And a lot of people, we get a little hinky about the accounting terms. If you're not an accountant, you say, oh, I don't understand what all of these mean. So we'll work our way through that. And in fact, I think our friend Joe, who's one of our commenters and is an accountant, will also be joining us. So he'll be able to, answer more specific questions for us next week too. All right. So questions about the business model canvas. You ready to try it out? Okay. So as always, the documents in Slack, you can, write it down. If your printer's not working, you can just get a piece of paper and draw. I'll leave this screen up where you can take a picture of it so that you see what these ideas are, or you can write a few of them down. So start in the middle. What is my value proposition? Who are my customer segments? Who are my key partners? And then you can start filling in the middle. But I'd like you to just work on the right-hand side for our exercise, since we don't have a lot of time in class. Your value proposition and your key customers. In other words, whose problem is it, and what is the problem that you're solving? And again, we're going to go into breakout rooms. Charlie's going to put you in groups of 2 or 3 so that you can have somebody to bounce some ideas off of. because that always helps us with our thinking process. Everybody ready?
Mhm.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Here they are.
Hey, Kathleen, we were not able to locate where the draft of this business canvas model page or the information is on Slack. Can you please point to us?
It should be in the class that's marked class number 4. Hang on a second. Let me.
I couldn't find that on Slack.
Bummer. Let me go back and check it.
I see class 1, class 2, session 1, session 2.
Look for session 4. Do a little search. It just means that you haven't if you haven't touched on it, it may not show up in your left-hand column. Jumping over to Slack for a second, but it's not finished opening. My computer may not want to open that many things today.
No, I can see up to class exercise session 3, but not 4.
Just put a number 4 up in the search bar and session 4 shows up and then you can join it.
I see. Okay.
Excellent. That was helpful.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I forget sometimes since, of course, I created them, most of them, I think all of them, but they all show up on my Slack that if you didn't, if you joined and then there were more things added that you may have to actually do a little search to find them. All right. So what did you learn in our breakout session?
Nobody learned anything.
Oh
No,
no.
I learned something. I'll speak. I learned something.
Come on, G. Come on, T. Rudolph. You tell.
I learned about what's the person's name? Christine. I just said that. Christine, she has an online, she wants to do an online service, helping people to tap into their talent. Like she can look at your resume and see what you have and choose the best job for you, which is a pretty good thing. I might have to use her one day for that. And
what did you learn that you can apply to your business?
So, well, you know, I was telling, because she wants to be a writer. She said she wants to write. That's what she said. But she has an online service. But I can use her as far as because I have a LinkedIn page. So maybe she can look over my information and see if it's up to par. Okay. Although I think I did a good job, but I still let her look at it. But it's always good to have people critique your things.
Absolutely.
So it would be good to have a critique the information I have out there.
Yeah, feedback is a real gift. And as a business owner, you want that, even if it's really negative feedback, because it's a lot better than somebody walking away and not telling you why they have a problem and don't want to use your service anymore. Yeah. So feedback, you know, there's a whole book called Feedback is a Gift. There's a whole
because she was
about that.
She was trying to tell me that I guess how to my value perspective, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know if I have. I'm not really sure what of that term. I think I might have a little problem with the term. I'm still trying to find out what that term means.
Okay.
I guess what it's all about what I'm offering and everything. So I will have to work on that.
Okay. Yeah. Remember, it's okay to post your stuff on Slack and ask for feedback from us that way, both mentors and classmates. And you can also, you know, post questions or send direct message questions, you know, using the bottom half of Slack where it's got the people's names. So
what is Slack? What is Slack? What is that? Like
Slack is the tool where I keep all of these documents, right?
Is that a website there or something?
It's it's a website, and you can also use it as an app on your computer or on your devices. And so it's a way for us to stay in touch between classes. So
Do you
if you
have the
go,
information?
yeah. So if you go back to the email that I sent out, did you get an email from me? over
No,
the
I
weekend?
didn't receive the email.
Okay,
And well,
and I may not have
I
your
didn't go
email
to
address.
I didn't go to all the sessions. I'm
okay.
sorry, but I didn't go to all the sessions. But I
Type your
I
email
haven't done
into
it
the
yet.
chat.
Well, the way I got into the chat, I had to re-register. I registered earlier.
Right.
Then I had
And
to
here
re-register
in the
again.
class. Type your email into the chat so I have it, and I'll add you onto the list.
Yeah, I did. I left that for you. I asked for a question, and I sent my email. You're Miss Donovan. I sent you a chat.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll check it at the end of the class.
Okay.
I'm busy talking to you right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and then I will send you that. Also at the very beginning of this class, and so if you look in the slides, when you get the information from the slides and the recording, that slide that I keep leaving up every week at the beginning, that has the a URL that you can copy into your browser, and that'll get you into the Slack page.
Okay.
But I will send you an invitation to it again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any other questions or comments from this tool?
I do have a comment here, and that is all the SCORE mentors, by their requirements of the ethics training and otherwise, we do not disclose any information that we get from you. However, if you post something and some other potential client of ours or somebody else who is attending the class, they come to know about it, it may not remain confidential. And that is something you do need to keep in mind. What you share with whom, not just among this group, but anywhere else regarding your business, your special ideas, or anything else.
Thank you. Yes, if you do have proprietary information and you want to post it to me in Slack or to one of the other mentors in Slack, use the direct messaging, because only you and the person you message to can see it. I've asked the mentors to put mentor next to their name in Slack, so you'll remember which ones of us are mentors and which ones aren't. And I'm not sure everybody did it, but if you're on my call now and you haven't done that, next time you're on Slack, you can, just paren mentor next to your name, so people know that you are a mentor and you're available to act in that capacity. Okay. So going back to the formal plan tools, we're still looking at channels. Now you can use either tool to start. You can use this tool and then copy it into your business model canvas. You could use the business model canvas and then you can develop it into here. What we're, in this, because the business model canvas is covering so many categories, it's broad, but it's not deep. And so it's not the only tool that you're necessarily going to use. What we can now do is we can take just this target market portion and dig in a little bit, right? So we can dig in to say, who are the exact demographics that we're talking about for our different client groups, right? You may be thinking about your demographics in terms of ages, right? So you may have a target market that's in a certain age bracket. You might have a target market that's in a certain geographic location. You might have a target market that has some other quality, right? So I'm specifically targeting, people who like to go out and do physical activities because I want to sell sportswear. That if you, as opposed to I'm looking for children, whatever it is that is your, your specific groups of people. Sometimes how much money they make or what kind of money they have available to you is important to understand. Are you talking about very high-end niche types of product offerings, or are you talking about something that's more an everyman kind of process? Is it gender specific? So on. what is your typical or your ideal client's buying habits, right? Is this an impulse kind of buy? Is this a planned buy? All of that kind of stuff. And we're going to go back also and look at what is this market like. Now, remember in the first and second class, I talked to you about all of these different resources that are out there on the internet that you can start looking at. A lot of this stuff comes from various government agencies that we have here in the United States. They compile this kind of data. It can be a little dense, but it can be helpful to understand, like, is this a growing market? Is it a declining market? How are things changing? Papers today say, maybe we're in for a big boom when we get out of COVID, which would be an economic boom, which would be a really terrific thing. I mean, there's a lot of people that, for them, money is piling up because they can't go out and spend it. So they can't wait to get out there and spend money on whatever it is, restaurants or clothes or trips or any of those other things. And there's other people who, they've been very depleted by this. And so there's, all different kinds of things going on. How is your, what is the economic condition of your target market now? And what will it be in the next couple of years? So we've got another tool where we can actually start looking at these, and it may be that for your purposes, you need to narrow your choices for which target markets you're going to focus on first, because as you're starting out in a business, you may not have enough resources of yourself or enough capital or enough, tools and planning to chase a whole lot of markets at once. So you start with one, get it started, and then move on to the next ones. And so you can kind of use some tools to compare what are the alternatives, what are the differences between these different target markets. So I said last time we compared different competitors. We used a chart 2 weeks ago to say, well, what does competitor A or competitor B do, and how do I compare, or how do I think I'll compare to those competitors? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare my different types of clients and say, well, which ones do I really want to focus on first? I may want to expand to everybody or to a different market at a different time. But when you're just starting out, you can't really do everything, be everything to everyone, because most of the time you're just you. I mean, unless you have a lot of money to hire people to help you, you're gonna need to channel your energy into one place. Okay. So for example, here's Anne's comparison, and I mentioned this earlier, right? So who am I going to sell to? Local, retail nurseries, other distant nurseries, consumer, or to directly to consumers, directly to gardeners themselves, or on the internet, right? And so now what we're doing here is we're looking at, well, what exactly is this type of position? In which case, I would be a producer retailer, I be a directly to a consumer or an internet consumer. What's the demographics? How much? What type of business would I be doing here? So in this case, we're looking at how much sales we could possibly do, how many different kinds of products that this customer may be interested in. In this case, these are going to be, plants for gardens. What are their buying habits? And what is what share of this existing market do I think I can capture? Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see why this might be helpful for you too, especially for some of you who are thinking, God, I could do this, and I could sell to these kind of people, and I could sell to those kind of people. Understanding, exactly who these different, marketing, markets are is really important. And I'm not saying you can't do all of them, but some are going to be more profitable in your particular business than others. And we should start with the profitable ones so that we can keep going. And you can do this at sort of a plus or minus, right? So how am I going to rank myself in my ability to do all of these things. So when Anne did hers, what she recognized is that, local gardener, in other words, doing her own retail sales to people in her area who would, just come in and buy a couple of plants to put in their gardens. She didn't feel like she had a lot of strength there. What she thought she had a lot of strength in is selling her plants to those local nurseries where people go and buy their flats of spring flowers or other stuff like that. And so the things that she felt she was strong in, she gave a plus. If she felt very strong, 2 pluses, very, very strong, 3 pluses. Flat, she used a 0. And for the things that she thought, I'm not really strong here, this actually could be difficult for me, there were some negatives. Okay. So what's the advantage of making a chart like this? It's pretty simple.
You could see it more.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It's more visual.
Okay. Yeah. And it gives us a way of sort of comparing apples and beer cans, right? Because some of these factors are quite different, and yet we still need to figure out which ones of these are, how do I sort of, incorporate all of these ideas and include them? Yeah. Christine, do you have a question?
Yes. Sorry about the house phone ringing in the background. I like that it's an objective framework. So it kind of forces you to just kind of look very practically across and just know what your strengths and weaknesses are in one glimpse.
Yeah, that's a really great observation. So a lot of these tools we're trying to objectivize subjective information, because while it's in your head, it's very subjective. We have a lot more emotional influence than we realize about these different ideas. But when we start writing them down and trying to apply numbers to them, even if it's just starting out with pluses and minuses, that starts to give us a little bit more distance, just so that we can be a little bit more quantitative and rational in our thinking than we would be otherwise. Okay. I don't want to get rid of all that passion, because that's what's going to help you sell your business. But I want you to make sure that you're targeting it at your best opportunity. All right. So we're going to try this a little bit. And so what I want you to do now is focus a little bit on your markets. So so who are those target markets? What are some of the key information that you already know about it? Again, we have these tools that are available in Slack. I'm going to go into Slack and see if I can get you send you the invite. I'm not sure what your first name is. Terry? Did you say it was? So you can get into Slack now.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry?
Are you talking to me?
Yes. I just see.
Are you sending it to my email now?
I'm going to send you the invitation.
Are you sending it to my email?
Yes.
To my email? Or here on the chat? Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go back into our breakout rooms for 10 minutes and work with somebody. And then we will come back after 10 minutes and see what we learned.
Okay, here we go.
Thanks.
I always talk too much and get cut off in the middle.
Yes. But we were actually finished at that moment.
Well, I was talking while I got cut off.
I know in some ways Zoom is a great time management tool, since
It really is. You don't have a choice.
Timer
It pulls you right out.
poof, we're back.
That's
We can't
it,
take it personally.
Yeah, you're back.
Excellent. Okay, so did anybody have an aha or a discovery in your breakout?
Yeah, I had an aha. I had an aha about time. Using the timer for my time.
I'll tell you what. One of the key things as a new business owner you have to be really concerned about is time management, because there's only so much of you to go around, and you have other things in your life other than running your business. You gotta eat and sleep and take care of yourself and take care of your family and pay your bills, and maybe you're still working your day job, or do all those other things. So figuring out how to use your time effectively to run your business is a really, really important skill to develop. Okay. Any other moments?
We spoke a lot about figuring out time management in terms of how you cost your product. As that lady happened to be a notary, it's time. So Matt actually came up and showed her a clock that they have, that they time every minute that they're doing something, because you have to figure out what your actual cost is in doing the job that she's doing.
Yeah.
And then we talked about a few other things. At the end of the day, Ms. Rudolph, what is your first name?
Tawana.
Tawana. Right. So Tawana does not have a SCORE mentor, and I mentioned I think she should do that and go on our site. And as I told her, it's free. And I think we can help her with a lot of the questions that she had so far today.
Good. Yeah.
I received your email, but it doesn't say anything about the Slackers.
Doesn't have a link on it?
It's it just says a link for the webinars. That's all.
No, that's not the webinar.
Oh, okay, I see it. I see it now.
Right.
It wasn't there earlier. Okay, I see it now. Okay, it says Slack. Okay, thank you.
Good. All right.
Kathleen, I wanted to share something. I was working with Bill, and he mentioned, because of my working with food, that Penn State has a partnership with SBA in Kutztown and can provide a lot of help there. And it doesn't specifically help everyone, but for some reason I wanted to share that if you're working through this canvas and there's a problem area, if you're good at identifying your financials, not so good at identifying your problem or things like that, there's a lot of avenues, a lot of helpful groups like SCORE and things that if you narrow in on where you're having difficulty, I would never have considered looking into Penn State, things like this, dealing with business planning. However, it's really a useful tool.
Yeah. Yeah. There are, there's a myriad of resources in every state. Small business is the lifeblood of our economy. It's tempting to believe that big companies are what makes everything happen, but it's not true. It's just they get more press because they're big and they can throw a lot of money around. But the aggregate of small businesses is really the engine that keeps our economy running, which is why we're in this weird tailspin right now. And there's a lot of resources available. So the nice thing about SCORE is there's a whole lot of us, so we don't all know everything. We all come from different places, and we can, share and, what we do learn with other people. But there's also a lot of other resources in the state of Pennsylvania. So like Ed was saying, we're going to have some people from other parts of Pennsylvania do some webinars for our clients, people who know about SCORE, to find out what they have available. And I know I'm going to learn new stuff, because I don't know everything that they have. But like the cooperative extension, every state has a cooperative extension, which can help with a lot of home-based things, like your plants and your gardens. But there's a lot of good information about food services. But then there's other places that have other more commercial information as well. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
I wanted to encourage people. That's all. Yes, thank you.
I really appreciate that. And I think that's, one of the nice things about having a live class is that we learn from each other. I learn something every time I teach, which is why it's so much fun to teach.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, as opposed to just watching, something that's pre-recorded, having that interaction. And that's also why I have the Slack channel, so that you can keep checking with, you can ask questions, you can stay in touch with people in between classes without, if we were in person, we might make some friends.
If anyone is not involved on Slack, there is so much information that has been provided on there with Excel sheets and breaking down every element, it seems so far. with designing this business model canvas. If anybody else is not on Slack, try to dig through the emails and get on there.
Yeah. And I put up a couple of videos about how to use the business model canvas, very short ones. If you want longer ones, Google it. You know, like there's a guy who wrote the book,
That sounds scary.
which is this. You know, he's got an hour-long, really geeky talk about this, but the 9-minute one is brilliant, and there's a 2-minute one that's also brilliant. So, you know, start with the little ones, work your way up as you get more curious about it, and it makes more sense to you. And get as much as you need, and once you have that, move on. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the marketing message. So what you've all started saying to me in the breakout rooms is, you know, elements of your marketing message. And the more of this stuff that you write down and you have in front of you, the easier it's going to be for you to pick out what is that kernel, what is that key thing that's the hook for your perfect client. Okay. And I really strongly encourage you not to just try and do this in your head. Use a pencil or a pen or a keyboard, but handwriting this stuff can be very powerful, you know. So if you're used to using a keyboard, try handwriting some stuff. If you're used to handwriting, try using the keyboard. What's going to happen is the more you write about it, the richer your language will get, the more specific your language will get. And you're going to be able to then notice that there are certain phrases that you use that just kind of make you light up a little bit. That's where, you know, where your sweet spot is. You're like, yeah, that's the one. And that's what you're going to start, you know, highlight it. You don't have to start building on it right now. Just highlight it. Or if you, as you reread your stuff, if something keeps, you know, triggering, you know, great ideas in your mind, highlight it. And then figure out, is that part of my key marketing message? Okay. And so you're going to have a couple of different ways that you're going to have your marketing message. You can have something that's really like a tagline, something very super short that you could put on a business card, or, you know, I have a tagline that's underneath the signature on my, you know, on my emails. I can have a little bit longer. That's my elevator speech, right? That can be a sentence that I use if I'm at a networking event to just kind of tell people who I am. Or, you know, a little bit, and as people are more interested, I can have a little bit longer explanation for people who say, you know, if I think I want to hire her, what do I, you know, what else do I need to know about her? What, you know, tell me more. That I'm going to put in my bio on my webpage, for example. And in my case, I was selling me. If you're selling a product, then you're going to be more focused on your product. Okay. So what is that concise message that answers your customers' primary questions, right? So if your customer is looking for bargains, then you want to have something about pricing. If your customer is looking for uniqueness or a very quality offering, then you want to have language that describes that. If they want something that is immediate gratification, I have a problem right now and I need to solve it immediately, then you want to talk about that kind of availability. If they need something that's dependable, reliable, you know, I can always count on this. I know it's going to work and I don't have to think about it. Then that may be, you know, what you want to focus on. Okay. But there's other things as well. And whatever it is that, you know, again, the more you think about what their problem is, the easier it's going to be to figure out, you know, what is it that's that burning need that you want to be able to answer, that people go, oh, that's what I want. That's what I need. Questions about this? Okay. Don't worry if you don't get it perfect the first time. Your first answer is not your best answer ever. Right? There's nothing magic about it. It's just the starting place, but you need to have a starting place, and then you build on it and you massage it, create it, craft it, edit it until you finally find something that is, okay, yeah, this is going to work. And it's perfectly okay to pilot it, test it out, see if this is really the right thing. See if this lands with your clients. If it doesn't, go back to the drawing board and do a little more work. And things will evolve over time. Your business will probably evolve over time. It will change. And as that happens, your message may change with it, so that you're continuing to keep that target on in front of you. So here's an example from Anne. Right, Anne's nursery offers to discerning growers and gardeners high quality ornamental trees, shrubs, and vines, backed by well-known horticulturist Dr. Ann Murphy, a 1-year money-back guarantee, and an extended plant care documentation. Okay, so that's sort of the medium-sized one, right? This isn't a tagline. This is a, like an elevator speech length thing that gives you all of the key information she wants you to know about her business, right? Any particular words jump out here to you that say, yeah, that's makes that really attractive? Any plant lovers out there? It's hard to think about gardening as I'm watching all the garden completely covered with snow, but won't be long now. My snowdrops are under there somewhere trying to show me that spring is almost here.
I see the 1-year money-back guarantee to grow.
Okay, right. So maybe if you're you think you have a black thumb and I've got a guarantee it's going to grow. Oh, that makes me feel so much better, right? Some people might go, ooh, discerning growers and gardens. I'm special. That's who I want to deal with. I bet she has really cool plants.
So it's not just the thing staying alive, it's also that it grows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of an interesting guarantee.
Right. Yeah, a little bit different phrasing than the normal one. Okay. And we're going to use those, to help us develop our, what is our marketing, what is the means of marketing going to be for me, right? So you can go to the old traditional things like putting ads in the newspaper. It still works, right? Still works. We still, people still do read physical papers. But in addition to that, we also have ads that can be running on the internet and on radios and stuff like that. We can do other kinds of collateral. Maybe you make flyers that you distribute or hang up someplace where people can get at them. Maybe you're doing email blasts. Maybe you're using, the social media world where you're selling through Instagram or Facebook or some other services like that. Maybe if you have a retail space, you're putting out a big sign. Okay. So all of this idea of your marketing message is what you're going to use to populate whichever one of these media you choose. Okay. Couple of examples. Okay. And we're also going to be thinking about who exactly, what level of channel are we talking about, right? So my business was a B2B business. I didn't sell to direct students. I sold to companies who were going to, put on a class. But other people have so I would have been a B2B service as opposed to a B2B product, right? So if I was selling books, then I would have been a B2B product, or B2C, which is direct to consumers, or you can also do internet kind of business. So again, you can end up doing more than one, but pick one to start. It's tricky to try and balance two. And then from that, we can start to develop a strategy to say, now, how much of my resources, I only have so much money to spend on this. How am I going to divvy that up? What's the best use of how I'm going to plan to use that money? So there are other tools that are also available for you to do that. We didn't get time to go through all of them today, but they're still available to you. They're on Slack, such as the marketing expenses strategy plan. Again, these are just basic places for you to start jotting down these ideas. and keep referring back to them. It doesn't help you if you stick it in the drawer.
Do you have these 2 slides you just put up there on Slack?
Yeah, all of the slides are always posted on Slack as well as the video of the class. So after we finish, doing all this posting, plus Charlie will email them to you. So if you were on the distribution list, then you get an email that says, here's the links to the YouTube video and to the document for with all the slides. And then we also post them in Slack, so you can find them again.
Kathleen, is also a link there to go to Bucks County Score in case they want to sign up for a mentor.
Absolutely.
Is that there too? Great, thank you.
Yeah. So, and you can just go to buckscounty.score.org and push the button that says find a mentor. If there's a specific quality that you're looking for, feel free to look in the directory. There are 11,500 mentors in the country, and since we're virtual, you can contact anybody you want. If they're available, then they'll talk to you.
I was noticing your slide, you said something about start in one area and then go to another area.
This one?
Well, the one before that, you said pick one area. Yeah, you said pick one area.
Right. So if, for example, if you're thinking about doing, well, I want to do some in-person sales and I want to do some online sales and I want to sell to businesses, I want to sell to consumers. As a small business, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do all of them maybe this year, but which one are you going to focus on right now?
So is that something you put in your business plan?
Yeah. And so
Which
that's one of the reasons why we have those little charts to compare things. So those comparison charts where you put the pluses and minuses, that will help you figure out, okay, let me start here. Right? For right now, this is the best place to start for me, weighing all of these factors. What's the current market? What's my current, what do I already know something about, or whatever other factors it makes sense for you and your business.
And so then you take those that data and you determine which one is best for you, or
so
like
they're to help you
that
figure
one
out, which one do I want to go with? Which one is likely to produce some success for me? And then once you get that going and it's bringing in some money, then you expand.
Well, how long does it take for you to determine which one? All right, well, I guess it depends on which one you use to determine which one is the best one.
It depends on you.
And when you do it, yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
Depends on how much analysis paralysis you get into, or, some people, they just kind of go, that one, I'm doing that one without thinking about it at all. Some people keep going, well, on this hand, but on the other hand, or I could do this, or I could do that.
So that is what you consider the analysis.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be helpful to get some feedback. To ask somebody else that who's doing this, or again, a score mentor, that somebody else who can say, well, how does this feel, and help you kind of figure out which if you're stuck. All of that stuff is helpful. All right. And then the last piece of the narrative part of your business plan is going to also include a description of your business structure, which we talked about all the way back in the first class. But now we have to, if you are going for a bank loan, you want to have all of those categories, right? So go back again and look at the sample that we provided for you that says, for Ann's business, that's got some boilerplate language. And then there's also a blank one that you can use for your own language. Okay, you're going to thinking about how am I going to perform my sales? The banker would want to know that, right? So in other words, if I'm writing when we call it a case, it's like a lawyer's case. You're making an argument. Why would you loan me money? And even if you're not asking for someone else to loan you money, you want to sort of present the argument to yourself to help you organize all of your ideas and thinking. Okay.
Notice your quote there about the sales and the marketing. What is the difference? What is the key difference there
between sales and marketing?
Mm-hmm.
Sales is selling. So sales is, closing
Because-
the deal and getting the money. Marketing is the ways that we attract people to let them know what our business is, right?
So sales is just the actual selling the products. So like, say if you marketing, say you market someone to, like for instance, I have a book.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say, if you go to my website, you can purchase this book.
Mm-hmm.
The website and the flyer would be the marketing, and then when they actually purchase the book, is the sales.
Correct. Right.
So they kind of work hand. So you needed to market in order to do the sales first.
Right. So, but marketing is also what drives people to your website. How did they find your website? How did they find out about your book? I mean,
And
if they
then-
just happen to have, push that show me a random website thing on Google, which I've never actually used in my life, and it came up with your site, that would be nice, but it's probably not your best marketing strategy. So how are you going to get people to your site to buy your book?
Okay.
That's marketing.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we put it all together in this. So the feasibility piece is the narrative piece, the part we do in Word of the project of the business plan. In our next class, we're going to work on the spreadsheet portion of the plan, but it's going to build on all of the things we've already been talking about here. And so then we would have an entire business plan. Okay. So for homework, what I would like you to focus on is thinking about some of those financials. So take a look at the financial template. It's got a lot of pages, right? So it's got a bunch of tabs. Don't be frightened of it. Okay, we're gonna go through what all of them are for. We're gonna do some exercises to work on certain portions of it, but kind of familiarize yourself with a little bit. You can print some of it out or have it available on your screen so that you can fill it there. If you're using the spreadsheet directly, you don't need a calculator, but if you're using a paper version, then you can do that. We're going to actually start out by just thinking about categories of expenses. So you can take a look at your own books and think about, what are some of the things that you have already spent money on your business or that you anticipate spending money on to start up your business and your ongoing bills.
The money, you said the money to start off?
Right?
Money to start off, you said?
Yeah. And feel free to post questions on Slack if you have questions in between. All right.
Actually, we're right at over our appointed time this time.
Yes, we are. So we're running a little bit late today because we had so much juicy stuff.
So thank you so much, Kathleen, for an excellent presentation. We had a lot of good questions. And I think it's going to be very interesting the next time when we actually jump into the numbers. So thank you again. And please, if you need a school mentor, go to the site that Kathleen referenced, and we'll be happy to help you.
Do you have an email, Miss Donna? You have an email?
Yes, my email is Kathleen with a K, Donahue, 2 O's, no A's, at scorevolunteer.org. Kathleen.Donahue at scorevolunteer.org.
Wait a minute, you said it's 2 O's.
No, she meant
D-O-N-O, not D-O-N-A.
Oh, you
Phil spells it wrong.
All right, at
scorevolunteer, all one word, .org. It should be in the email I sent you.
Yeah, it's also
Okay.
on your first slide, I think.
Yes, and it's on the first slide.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you again, folks, and we're going to sign off now.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.